Cornerstone Horsemanship. I'm Greta Cummings.
And I'm Sheri Billings. And boy, God's got the fan running today.
He sure does. You can hear our building humming.
So on Tip Tuesday, we started talking about Snaffle bits, and then we realized that we had left a lot of information on the table that we didn't have time to talk about. So we thought we'd fill you in today.
Absolutely. So let's start with, we both went to this bit here, this Western D with the Mylar Comfort Snaffle versus the Western D sitting right here with a traditional single joint. So Sheri, why do we pick the Comfort Snaffle over the traditional single joint?
Well, again, this one tends to want to collapse when you pull back on it.
Yeah, every time you pull on those reins, that would collapse on that poor horse's jaw.
And so if there was any action at all, it's either pinching the tongue or pinching the roof of their mouth. It takes an educational hand to be able to lift and pull back at a 45-degree angle to make a good communication.
Yeah, that's why we teach to use the elbows out. We preach a lot of times elbows out, and someday I got a funny story about that, but go ahead.
So, and the reason why is because these are such a very versatile bit that if you were able to communicate with your horse correctly on it with less pain, we want to have that lift and the elbows out to avoid this pinch.
Yeah.
Where in the Mylar you don't have that.
No, you don't, and that's all the further that bit will collapse on that horse's jaw. So that's a very forgiving bit. We make all sorts of mistakes while we ride. Everybody does, and so that's just a good tool to have as a rider. I'm going to add one more thing to this. I absolutely agree with everything you said about that, but we have another pinch point here too, in the twist, and you can feel that even on your own hand or arm, that there is that twist, and our ultimate goal is to have our horse as comfortable in the mouth as possible so they can focus on what we're asking and not be thinking about this thing that keeps hurting them.
Mm-hmm. Now this one, doesn't have that pinch point, but it's more rigid.
It's very rigid, exactly like you said. It has no give. It still has the independent movement without that pinch in the middle, but you don't have quite as clear of a communication with it as you do, again, with the Mylar Comfort Snaffle. That bit was a fraction of the price of the Mylar. Don't get sticker shock when you go shopping, because I assure you they're worth every penny. It's not a bad bit, but it's not the best bit.
This looks like it could work on the corners of the mouth more than on the jaw.
You did pick that up because the joint is right there at the lip. You're exactly right. Whereas this one, it's towards the top more, and that was by design. Again, to keep that horse comfortable. There's so many things to think about. Good eye, Sheri.
Now tell me, what's the benefit of having this?
The loose ring. That's a loose ring snaffle. So what Richard Shrake told me is that the benefit of it is when you pick up on the rein, it'll kind of click. We're not going to be able to hear it over our humming building today, but there's a little click that horse can feel. Horses are so sensitive, even if they seem really, really dull. They're so very sensitive. But a loose ring just isn't my favorite. I use some just because I have them, but I just like how you have these fixed rings that just gives a little more feel on any of these.
And you definitely want to have a bit hobble in there. Just
for that one, for sure.
So it doesn't slide through the mouth. A horse can get their mouth around that ring pretty easily.
Yes, they can. I saw a lot of that over the past weekend as well.
Oh no, yeah, it's been a tough weekend.
It has been. Yeah, I had some of my students with me, and they were making comments, and I said that those are just the people out there doing what they think is best. You can't fault them.
No. So in this one, you have that clear communication in the mouth because it is so wide that it covers more space. and less likely for the horse to open up their mouth and take it completely through.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely the benefit of the D-ring. I don't have one out here, but the same thing with the full cheek. It has a smaller ring, but it has an extension below either, and it's the same thing. It's a bit guard more than anything.
Good training tool.
Yes, it's a very good training tool. So, you see anything else out here, Sheri, we want to share?
Well, the only other thing that we probably want to talk a little bit about is the sweet iron and the copper inlays. This one actually has both. I noticed a lot of the milers have both as well, but this one only has the copper inlay. But tell me a little bit, or the viewers a little bit about what they're for.
Yeah, so I asked Dale Myler that exact same thing because he prefers the sweet iron. This one has the sweet iron. You can see this discoloration here in it, and he prefers that. And I said, well, why with the stainless steel then? And this here is the egg butt bit. If you watched our video yesterday, you remember that. And this is a D-ring. These are both traditionally an English style bit. And he says your English riders, they like to have clean, sparkly tack, and that sweet iron just doesn't afford that. So that's the only reason. Now, I don't want to knock them, because the English riders, I remember taking dressage lessons as a youngster, and we had to wash our bits after every ride. But the tack room was immaculate. Everything was so well cared for. It looked clean and crisp, which is a great asset of those English riders over our Western ones. So, you know, that is really a good practice. We should be washing these as well, and I hate to admit I don't.
But the benefit of the sweet iron is the fact that it does rust, and that rusty steel is what gives the horses that sweet flavor, which is something that they enjoy to have in their mouth. And then the copper helps them slobber a little bit and keeps their mouth nice and moist.
Yes, moist and soft. There's nothing worse than trying to talk with a dry mouth, and there's nothing worse for a horse than try and listen with a dry mouth. Well, I hope our extra little tidbits and wisdom helped you in how to know which bit is right for you and your horse. So thanks for joining us today, and may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you.
And the horses you ride,
from our barn to yours.
I'm sure we got a little talky again.
Oh, I'm sure we did.
The flies left me alone.